to the second session of Questions and Answers with Globe Immigration. Today's topic is spousal sponsorship. We gather some of the most common questions that we're gonna ask right now and get our answers. So, first question will be, what is a spousal sponsorship and who qualifies?
A spousal sponsorship application is for people who, there's applicants and there's sponsors. So a sponsor is usually a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen who wants to sponsor a foreign national. And the sponsorship application is based on their relationship. So it has to be a relationship consisting of either a marriage, common law partnership, or conjugal partners can also sponsor each other. So a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen sponsors their partner with whom they're in a relationship with for permanent residence.
Okay. What are the key documents needed for the sponsorship application?
The objective is what's important to demonstrate is the genuineness of the relationship and the fact that this relationship and this sponsorship was not entered into primarily to gain status under the Act, meaning that you're not allowed to marry somebody just so you can get permanent residence in Canada. So the documents, typically for every single one of our sponsorships, we tailor the list of documents. There is, because let's face it, we're all different, we all have different relationships, lifestyles, and what we share with our partners. So each case is individually tailored according to your situation, what it is that you do have access to, and we prepare that list at the beginning of every case once we initiate the process.
Perfect. How long does the application process usually take?
Well, there are two types of sponsorships. So there are couples that are both partners are in Canada, and that's called an in-Canada sponsorship. So it can be filed without having to leave Canada. And that's regardless of your status, whatever it is in Canada. And there are overseas spousal sponsorships. And that means that one of the partners, usually the permanent resident or the Canadian citizen, is in Canada while the partner is overseas in their home country or in the third country. And the processing times, typically standard processing times, are about a year, give or take. And again, depending on circumstances, if there are certain other, maybe there are some issues with the application, then it could take longer. But typically, the average processing time is 1 year.
All right. What are common mistakes to avoid while applying for a spousal sponsorship?
I think the most common mistake is to try to prepare an application not necessarily based on your existing relationship and what you have as a couple, but trying extra hard, right? A lot of people will ask, well, how many people should I have at my wedding? Well, it doesn't really matter. You do what you do and what you would normally do under the circumstances, what naturally you would, however you would have your wedding and how many people you have. In terms of the mistakes, the most common mistake is actually really, there's just many. There's too many to list, because any mistake can cause issues with the application. And that's, starting from a loss of time, because the application was not prepared properly. You could just, somebody prepares it and people come in and say, look, I got, this was returned to me, I don't know why. And they lose 3 to 5 months of their lives and then have to start from scratch. So other mistakes could lead to some more serious consequences, like misrepresentation, which could actually have somebody be barred from applying for permanent residence for up to 5 years. So there are many different mistakes with documents, what kind of documents are needed to be included in the application, and the actual information on the forms, as simple as, again, simple misrepresentation It does not have to be intentional, right? That could also lead to some serious consequences. So it's just so many different types of mistakes that could cause issues and also delays. We have clients who have approached us that have applications in process for longer than the typical standard processing times, which were also caused because miscommunication. And it's something that should be tailored. It should be monitored, right? Very, very important. And certain steps within the application that could be taken in order to try to expedite the process. And that's typically when there are issues and you need to be proactive. So again, very different types of mistakes that can lead to negative consequences on your application.
Very important. Can I work or study while my application is in process?
This is for typically in Canada spousal sponsorships, where both partners are in Canada and one of them is a permanent resident or a citizen, and the other is in Canada either with status or without status. And the work or study depends on the applicants. So the person who is applying for permanent residence being sponsored, it depends on their status at the time of the application. So this is something that some people are able to get a study permit or a work permit while waiting for their permanent residence through the sponsorship, and a lot of people can't. So it does depend.
Okay. What happens if my application is refused?
Again, two types of applications in Canada and overseas, and the approach is different for both, right? So if it's an in Canada spousal sponsorship application and it is refused, the number one step, the first step, is to find out why, right? It is to understand why it was denied. And this is something that we have a lot of experience in having people coming in with refused cases. And once we determine the root of the refusal, the rationale behind the refusal, we can then take the appropriate steps. And these steps can include from either sometimes it's filing for reconsideration, right? We want to, we identify the issue, it can be easily fixed, and then we can make an application to reopen the case and have it reconsidered. Okay, and sometimes it's just that the case has just gone sideways completely, right, in the wrong direction, and it has to be just basically prepared again from scratch, and a new application needs to be filed. And there are cases, and a lot of it happens as well, where the officer, the deciding officer, makes a decision and it's not the correct decision, right? They make mistakes. They don't consider facts of the case. They, maybe there are legal errors that the officer has made in coming to the conclusion that the application should be refused, and these decisions can be challenged in the federal court. These are some of the solutions for the in Canada spousal sponsorship applications. Whereas the overseas, if you're sponsoring a partner, a spouse from overseas, and it's an overseas spousal sponsorship application and it does get denied, you have an option to appeal this decision with the IAD, Immigration Appeal Division, and that is a special department within the Immigration Division, RPD, Refugee Protection Division, and Immigration Appeal Division, where cases brought to be challenged specifically for other reasons as well, but for when it's an overseas spousal sponsorship, it goes to the Immigration Appeal Division. And that is, again, a process where you are going to get a hearing with the member of the board, a judge. But we have an opportunity to present an entire case. The hearings usually last half day to a full day, and we really get an opportunity to present a full case as to why the officer's decision should be overturned, why the case should be reopened and continue processing at the visa office where it was originally denied. And again, it's the overseas process, not a lot, but some of the cases, a portion of the cases, the applicant, the person applying to come to Canada, will get an interview with an officer. And when the officer maybe perhaps is not satisfied and does refuse that application, that interview does not give a full opportunity to the person to provide all of the answers. It's fairly short. Whereas when the appeal is filed here in Canada, a hearing before this judge, again, typically is at least half a day, but most of the times it's a full day hearing where all of the evidence, testimony, both parties can testify. So we have quite a lot of experience in this area, challenging these refusals when people do come to us. So these are the options. So there are several options for both in Canada and overseas sponsorship cases that are refused.
Thank you. How does IRCC determine if a relationship is genuine?
Well, number of factors. It is the information that is provided on the application forms with the initial application, the type of documents that you present, and again, if there is an interview, the interview, right? So the combination of, there should be consistency, fluidity, and it has to make sense. And these are the three aspects of an application based on which an immigration officer makes his or her decision to either approve or refuse or believe or not to believe for the relationship, for the bona fides, it's called, of the relationship. So it's actually extremely important. All three aspects of the case are very, very important, and really need to be prepared properly and in tune with what the officers are looking for, just to have a smooth application, smooth sailing in your case.
Right. And last but not least, can you please tell us how can Globe Immigration help with spousal sponsorship?
Again, it's I think the experience that we have here is over a decade of experience, and that's dealing with all kinds of cases. Simple sponsorships were straightforward, to sponsorships that have complicated elements to the cases. There's even with inadmissibilities. So anything that has to do with the spousal sponsorships, we have a lot of experience. We stay up to date with the requirements, the regulations, the current climate for these types of cases. And I think that continuously having done these cases over the years without a break gives us a full understanding, knowledge, backed up by the experience, whether people come to us with fresh cases to be filed, to be submitted, takeover cases where they have perhaps filed the case themselves or another firm has filed the case and they would come in and want us to take over, and cases that have extremely complicated scenarios, as well as any kind of inadmissibilities. Appeals, again, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of appeals. Successful outcomes where families have been reunited, couples have been reunited. So I think that's the continuity of the experience that we do have, and just being in this industry for so long, and staying up to date. We don't have to all of a sudden learn a lot. It just, as things progress, as things change with immigration, just like any other type of immigration application, the experience and the knowledge that we have will definitely and has benefited people around the world in Canada to stay together, reunite, and to have their refused cases challenged successfully.
Perfect. Thank you so much for watching our channel. Contact Globe Immigration for any assistance with your spousal sponsorship.
Or appeal. Thank you.